kind of weird. And a couple of Bush presidents in there. And we had Joe Biden. And the thing about the Joe Biden years is that it really was almost like end of empire. I really felt like, oh, America was finished. America is toast. America is over. We're just going to sink into oblivion now. The empire is dead. But America has a way to reinvent itself, which is unique to America because the Constitution and the Bill of Rights worked. They protected the sanctity of the elections enough to get the will of the people represented in the government by electing the people they wanted, including the president. And I remember back in the 80s, Luke, when the word on the street, and I was working on Wall Street at the time, was that Japan was going to dominate the world economy. They had beautiful manufacturing capacity, and they were cranking out cars, and they were sending them over to the U.S. And Japan's real estate property market had gone up to this absurd level of valuation where like a square inch of the royal palace in real estate was worth more than Manhattan or something crazy like that. And then the internet came around and it favored creativity over conformity because think about it. And so now the stage is set for the U.S. to bounce back in a big way, and it's very exciting. As we were discussing before, this was the least likely outcome that I could imagine. I thought that at the best, the election would get bogged down in lawsuits for weeks, if not months, and maybe there would be a winner at the end of that process, but it would just drag everyone down. So this whole clean sweep, overnight success with a vast mandate, he couldn't ask for a better outcome, and here we are.
Yeah. So one of the things Trump has talked about is replenishing oil reserves for America, right? Of course, the strategic reserve for Bitcoin seems to be kind of like that similar idea of, in the name of national security, self-interest, whatever, right? And so obviously Putin has discussed the idea. Middle Eastern countries, obviously, the big speculation right now into the big, price jump in Bitcoin. So I'm curious, do you think that all this hype around pricing oil and Bitcoin, do you think that's going to be one of the main drivers to accelerate the game theory? Or do you think it's going to be a different...
London from continental Europe in a big way. And that kicked the legs out from underneath the British economy in ways that people who understand how the global financial system works were warning about, including myself, but the Brexit went forward anyway. And I remember just asking people all the time, I said, you realize that this will cut GDP substantially if you exit the Eurozone. And they're like, we don't care. We want to be sovereign. I'm like, okay, you're going to be quote unquote sovereign, but the relationships you need to grow won't be really you still need to have those relationships. It's not like you're going to flip a switch and you're going to become a massive powerhouse in the manufacturing sector. Within 6 months, you're going to be exporting, Rolls Royces. The only thing that they really do well there is the Rolls Royce engine. That's a fantastic product. But nevertheless, so my point.
What do you think is going to happen in the coming years, right? Do you think we're going to have the traditional 4-year cycle? Do you think maybe now we have a super cycle and price goes higher? Do you think maybe price doesn't go higher, but instead the bear market's either dampened or changed in some way? Or is it just a total crapshoot that we have absolutely no idea with what's happening?
Well, back in the internet days, NASDAQ was at incredible highs. Cisco was the most valuable company in the world. And the assumption was that Cisco's growth would be 40% a year forever, essentially. And then they came in with a number that was under that. And that was the rug pull on the NASDAQ, pretty much. There was a rug pull on the NASDAQ. NASDAQ went from, dropped almost, I think, 90% from the high, starting in the 2001 break. Now, the cycles in Bitcoin, I think, looking ahead will be, I see a problem. Broker dealers and market makers kind of preparing for a much bigger market. And then once they have a size their markets properly, then the price discovery is kind of allowed to act based on the true supply and demand. And so now we're seeing this jump to 90, 100, 120, 150,000. I think the price can get to 200 to 250,000 in this cycle before you have any difficulty from broker dealers in handling orders. Before they would have to recalibrate their order books, et cetera. I mean, I worked on Wall Street for many years. That was my background. I created the virtual specialist technology that I invented. It's patent number 5950176. I sold it to,
Sorry about that.
no problem. I sold it to Cantor Fitzgerald, Howard London. I bought that patent in 2001, and they use it to make markets and derivatives. And I had a chance to sit down